All right, guys, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian Farmer. It's Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your recap for Wednesday, August 8th. Okay, so we'll go over today's trades for the day. Some of the option flow of the day. I'll go over some of the earnings moves as well. This was a bit of a later day of trading for me. Kind of had the game plan coming into today that I think the market it may be due for a little bit of volatility. Again, I don't try to time that. We never know when we're going to get a bout of volatility, but things, after about a four-day rally, I took off a lot of exposure yesterday, and then I have a lot of longer-term trades, and then I kind of set up for some day trading opportunities. Swing trades, I think, right now you have to be pretty picky. I think there were some great opportunities about a week ago when we had that dip. I was adding all kinds of trades and risk into different spots last week and a little bit in the beginning of this week. But now it's, so by the way, we had this little bit of sell-off at the end of the day in the S&P. But if we go to the daily chart, we might be a little bit overbought here in the short term. Again, usually when I see 4 days of green, I tend to kind of back off a little bit from risk taking. So we'll see. We'll see if we can come back and retest a little bit. Maybe that burns off some of those overbought levels. By the way, I was going over this at the end of the day in the trading room. The total stock market. So I was actually making my case for why I look at the total stock market rather than the S&P. But 52-week highs. This is everything in the U.S. VTI. Total stock market index. You've got large cap, mid cap, small caps, everything. 52-week high, so all-time high, I believe, in the U.S. stock market today. Again, I know it's not the S&P, but this is everything. So depending on what you trade, right, which is a good point, I'll talk about this for about 10 seconds. Depending on what you trade, if you just trade large caps that are in the S&P, then the S&P is for you. If you trade a little bit of mid caps and small caps, and a little bit of large caps, then this is the proxy that you want to necessarily look at. Now, I know this is not as liquid. Everybody looks at the S&P and analyzes the S&P levels, but I don't just trade. I don't only trade large caps. I trade small caps, so that's in here as well. And of course, you could look at IWM and things like the Qs as well. But bam, 52-week high in all stocks in the U.S. And that's really this is really the proxy for all stocks, and going on their depending on their side. So what did we see today in option activity? I'll go through my trades as always. If you're new to watching these videos, first of all, they're informational only. They're for informational purposes only. But I always go over what I trade. It's never like I will never go and talk about after the fact trades, which happens. I see people do that a lot. I always give you what I do and talk about the good and the bad because I don't want to tell you just, oh yeah, look at that moved like crazy today. I would say the order of the day was double A. This is an order where we saw. So this is basically what I put out on private Twitter. So if you remember, you received this. I put a lot more information out on the private Twitter feed, which you have to be a member of Tribeca Trade Group. Interesting flow. So I put this out at around 9:42, so right after the open. They've been adding in pieces today up to 10,000 of these short-term 44.5s. Note, and again, it's always good, even if you don't buy these orders, just to take note of what they start accumulating after earnings. So they bought 1K of the January 46 calls back on Monday. So basically what I look for is then some short-term levels that I could trade off of. And that was here, right? So they bought calls into here. We got rejected at the top of value. They came in, and here's where I really became interested because then they bought more calls on this little dip. And you had a nice move from 42.66 40 to 44. So nice little move. I mean, not a huge, ginormous move, but nice little scalping. And this is what I was talking about, where I think that this market is a little bit cooked to the upside, but you could still find day trading opportunities like this. So I think this was pretty good. And again, once you kind of see that repeat action, you're like, huh, You know, when we saw this on Monday, it's something we haven't seen in a while. A little bit of Alcoa call buying coming in, dip call buying coming in. And again, I usually wait until we see that repeat activity. So this was a nice play, and this is what I called out, and this is what I sent to members today. And we talked about this probably about 5 or 6 different times today. A couple other trades that I sent out. SYMC. And again, a lot of times, like this is a pretty small order. I never look at this. Sometimes people will tweet out, "Oh, it's 15 times normal volume." Well, it doesn't. This name really doesn't trade that many calls. So when somebody buys 600 contracts, if there hasn't been any volume in the last 2 weeks, yes, it's much higher. Is this a big trade? It's not. It's not bad. It's a $77,000 trade. It's not $1 million. You know, it's small. It's a small trade. But going to the chart, it looks like it's trying to break out. You also have an MACD crossover in this. All right, so if I go and if I look, and by the way, this is our option axe, which you can gain access to as a member. Oh, let me show you the Alcoa. You know, so this is all. This is the hammering of the Alcoa calls that we saw today. Sweep, and these are all sweeps. Sweep, 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 sweep. So this gave, you know, if you missed it on the first couple, you know, you saw it again and again and again and again today. The SYMC. So again, anybody can who has access to this. That's not SYMC. What is the symbol again? SMTC. Another semiconductor that we've been seeing some call buying in, and there's the sweeps for this one. Again, $77,000. Couple other trades that I sent out. The option activity for the day, which I'll show you in here. There's a little bit of Celgene chatter today, so they bought some calls in this one. There's a little bit of win calls off the open. So it wasn't a huge day in terms of option activity. There were some CERN calls. Halliburton, which has been a repeater. I was making the case of what was the analogy that I used today? The Big Lebowski, when the guy's sitting on or laying on the floor and he's flicking his beard. So it's a little bit of the waiting game for some of these orders that we're seeing out in January. Right, we've been seeing Halliburton January 47 calls. Look at the open interest in this, and I've been talking about this on Twitter as well. But you kind of have to just be patient and you wait. When somebody does this type of accumulation, right? It's the same thing about the EA call spreads that have humongous open interest now at this point. But if you're going out to January, you can't think of this as a day trade or even a couple day trade. There's 26,000 of these calls. So this could be a trade that you sit in for maybe a month or two if you're going out to January, right? So a little bit longer term, which is fine. This is what I want to own right now. You know, and then of course, you know, play with some day trades like the AA that we saw today. So this is what I did today. And again, I have no problem showing you my trades. Something that I don't see a lot of people do on Twitter. But anyway, that's another story. This was a great pick by one of our members today. SPBB had a high conviction about this name. So this was a nice trade. Sold it for $6 today. Bought it for $4.98. I also traded a little bit of Google today. Not a huge winner, but a profitable trade. So that's what it's all about. All right, so we'll cut off the video here. A couple names that reported after earnings. Again, so I always go over the strategy in the beginning of the videos because the strategy is much more important than any of the individual flow names. That's great for trade ideas, but you have to kind of come into the day with strategy, you know, and that's what we try to set up every day. Couple interesting names after the close. Yelp is up. You know, I looked at this. I did not play it because I was surprised at the short interest. It said on Bloomberg that the short interest was only 7% of the float. So I did not play that. Roku also up nicely. I think they announced that they have a Roku channel now on the web. Interesting booking. It was supposed to come out with earnings today. They delayed the report till tomorrow. So sounds suspicious, doesn't it? There was a few other names that reported, but we'll finish it here for the day. Guys, have a great night, and I'll see you back in the trading room bright and early. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow.